Page 14, Ode to Joy. We've already had Ode to Joy once, but now they're doing a little more with it. We're putting chords with it. At the top of the page, they talk about the G7 chord. I would really rather not get into this right now, but they're doing it, so let's just do it as far. I don't want to explain all of it. Just memorize this. This is an important chord in the key of C major. We are in C major. You didn't know that. You do now. I just told you. Take my word for it. You already had a C chord, which is every other note built on C. Well, we could do a G chord, which would be every other note built on G, any G. I'm going to use this one. I could do that in here. But they've added the 7th. It's a G7. Well, actually, what you do is you have to add one more note. That's the 7th. We haven't talked about intervals yet, so don't get too involved. Just know that a G7 chord is using these notes somewhere, and in this case, they're leaving out the D here. So they're just using these 3 notes. That's still a G7 chord. And they're using it in this pattern. The first line there on the solid chords, let's take a look at this in bass clef. The first note, remember I said spell out the chord? That's what we're doing. The first note, hopefully you know the name of that note. If you don't, please learn it. It is a B. We already had C. Well, this is the line right under that space, so there's a B. And the next note, hopefully you know that because that's an F. We're in an F clef. And then the top note is a G. So these are the notes to the G7 chord as we're going to use it now. You just memorize the pattern. It's these notes. It could be here, here, it could be in either hand. Doesn't matter where it is. That's the pattern. They're all G7 chords. The notes they're showing you in the staff, it's these notes on the keyboard. Not any others, it's these. Now, I told you before when notes line up vertically, you play them at the same time. Well, if you look at this, those top 2 notes are not vertically, they're cockeyed. And the reason for that is they can't put them vertically, there isn't room. They would overlap each other. So when they're close together like this, they'll make them cockeyed. You still play them at the same time. It's important to understand that. Play those together. You put your hand in the position of the chord and you just drop the whole hand down. And you go through the solid chords and broken chords, and we've all lived. You can do that on your own. You don't need me for that. What I want to do is go through this Ode to Joy. Now, we've had all this stuff in Ode to Joy before. The only thing is in the chord symbols at the top, above the top staff, we've had the C. Now in the second measure, they put a G7. And that's telling your guitar player, if they're playing along, that they do a G7 chord there, and then back to a C, and then back to a G7, so a guitar player could play along with you if they wanted to. In this case, it's handy because these are also the names of the chords you're playing in the left hand. It's a C chord. Second measure, it's a G7 chord. C chord. Of course, eventually, you don't need those symbols at the top. You can look at the notes and know exactly and immediately what the chord is. But for a guitar player, it's really handy. Now, something that throws some people don't even think about it, they just go on. Other people are confused. You have the slurs for the upper hand, you're going to connect those notes. All right, and it's separate. Okay. There's nothing for the left hand. It doesn't say anything about them. So what you're going to do is you're going to connect them as best you can. You can't totally connect them because that's just not the way the piano works. So in the first few measures here in the left hand, you're going to play the C chord for 4 counts. And then when you go to do the G7, you just real quick, you just got to know where the notes are, where you're going to go, and you just go there. See, your little finger's got to come down one. You're not in C position here, you're here. So you just have to practice these moves, be able to go between these chords as best you can. So that's pretty much it on Ode to Joy. 4/4 time, you got the phrases again, so we want a little break between the phrases. Let's try this together. Now, where the hands go? Well, you figure out where the hands go by looking at the first few notes for each hand. That tells you. In the right hand, you're starting with an E, third finger, That's the only finger number they give you. Finally, good, because you don't want to read finger numbers. And so if the E is there, your third finger, then the rest of them is here. That is C position. That's where the right hand goes. In the left hand, you have a C chord. They give you the 5, 3, 1 finger numbers, so that's where the left hand goes. So you figure out where your hands go by looking at the notes and the finger numbers, and that tells you. So you're going to do that. And this first thing, you're going to play those 3 notes in the left hand and that 1 note in the right hand all at the same time. Won't that be fun? Let's try this out together slowly. 1, 2, ready, go.